Welcome to our first snapshot, where we are going to discuss with our board current themes impacting security services. But first, some thoughts from me. As I see it, the security services world is going through a period of huge change, and it's all happening at tremendous speed. As disruptive technologies such as Gen AI become increasingly embedded in post-trade operations, new systemic risks, particularly cybercrime, are simultaneously forcing firms to adapt their risk management processes. On top of that, there is talk on the street that the next global financial crisis may be looming. But there's a lot going on that is and will impact security services. As we are recognizing and managing these changes, one of the key factors that is standing out is industry collaboration. At ESA, our membership is not alone in managing and identifying such themes, and I'm a true believer that there is safety in numbers. During a panel at Post Trade 360 in Stockholm in September, I had the ability to speak with members of ESA's board about themes impacting security services and how they are transforming our industry. We're going to explore these topics today. But before that, let's put these matters into some perspective and context, as some have been identified and considered by ESA previously. I welcome Bill Hodash from ESA's CEO office to provide his thoughts.
Hello, I'm Bill Hodash, and I'm with ESA, and I would like to take a few minutes to discuss the updated Future of Security Services paper published in late 2024. The ESA board feels that the FOSS paper is one of the hallmarks of ESA, representing our view of current forces and trends and the overall ecosystem and what they may mean for our industry. If you have not read the paper, you can find it on the ESA website under ESA Publications. The original Future Security Services Working Group was formed in 2019 to examine the key trends that would impact capital markets and security services going out 10 years to 2030. 7 firms worked together along with a team from Oliver Wyman to research those trends and their potential impacts, and the original FOSS paper was issued in December of 2020. In that paper, we analyzed 10 trends likely to impact security services. We developed 2 composite forces that have the highest likelihood of having the highest impact on the industry. And we performed a checkpoint on ISA's strategy and agenda to assure that we're appropriately responding to these trends and forces. The original paper was reasonably accurate in its prognosis for impacts on the industry, but the world changed quite a bit since it was published in late 2020. So the board and operating committee reactivated the working group, this time with a much broader membership, with over 40 people actively considering changes in the broader environment since 2020. Their revised paper was issued in late 2024 and addresses what has come to pass, what were we correct about and not so correct about, and what are the updated implications to ISA's strategy and agenda. Now, at the high level, we updated the composite forces, keeping the original 2, which were elements of high technology change, including impacts on competition, and elements of high investor change, including the rise of retail investors. But we added a 3rd force, which was always in the background in the original paper, and it was highlighted in several of the discussions of the 10 trends, and that's geopolitics. But that has risen to the forefront of many, many industries, and that was all even before the US presidential election in late 24 and what we've seen as its consequences. The bulk of the revised paper was devoted to discussing how our original view of each trend panned out and presenting revised thinking on each of the 10. At the ISA Symposium in May, we showed a slide listing all 10 trends and a self-score evaluating our accuracy in the original paper. We were pretty accurate, but we had some notable misses. I'm not going to review all 10 trends in this brief discussion, but I will discuss the revised outlook on 3 of them and how that has significantly impacted the agendas of ISA working groups. First one is disruption by big tech. We gave ourselves a score of 4 out of 10 on that. Back in 2020, we feared that some of the big tech firms in search of growth might enter capital markets and disrupt the industry, inflicting pressure on the incumbents. That has not come to pass due to several factors, including regulation and antitrust enforcement. Instead, we have seen many examples of partnerships between big tech firms and capital markets firms, especially around the move to cloud, data analytics, and optimizing the delivery of core services to clients. This will continue to increase as developments in AI accelerate. The level of investment in our industry, it will be very high, and it will cause financial services firms to seek out big tech partners to leverage those firms' massive investments in AI. So ISSA has changed its view. More partnerships instead of potential disruption from big tech firms, and our Evolving Technologies Working Group has formed a big tech work stream that is planning to publish a paper on how a partnership-driven approach with tech players can help the industry achieve its data and AI goals. The second trend I'd like to discuss is emerging risks. On that one, we gave ourselves a 9 out of 10 score. Cyber. It was a big focus of ISSA in prior working groups and in the original FOSS paper. And there has been a massive investment in cyber risk mitigation with very good results. However, there's now an increased attention given to risks of introducing new technologies, including AI. Assessing those potential risks and developing mitigants is very challenging given the fast pace of experimentation and adoption. So the revised view of emerging risks is to guard against cyber risk, AI risk, people risk, investor-related risks, ESG risks, and geopolitical risks. So a much broader view. These risks were all highlighted in ISSA's recent custody risk white paper, and the ISSA Operating Committee has decided to restart the Cyber Risk Working Group to update our papers on that subject that were published back in 2018 and 2020 to take into account the changes in these past 5 years. The last trend I'd like to highlight is accelerated settlement. We gave ourselves a 0 score out of 10. That was a huge miss. This was not on ISSA's radar, nor on the radar of ISSA members back in late 2020. But in February 2021 came the meme stock volatility and the crisis around that and all its fallout. So ISSA self-corrected and formed a working group focused on this issue and issued a white paper with recommendations in December of 2023. ISSA now predicts in the revised FOSS paper that with the successes in India, China, and the Americas, and soon the likely successes in the UK, Europe, and other jurisdictions, that all jurisdictions will need to move to T+1. Plus, if digital assets continue to develop and there is significant progress by a leading economy in adopting a central bank digital currency, ISSA now believes that discussions of the feasibility and desirability of potentially moving to some form of T0 settlement will commence and business cases will be commissioned. So in 2026, the ISSA Accelerated Settlement Working Group will work on a table of contents for a global business case for T0 settlement. We will not have the answers, but we aim to document all of the pertinent questions that need to be raised when determining the costs and benefits of potentially moving from T+1 settlement to some form of T0 settlement. I hope this brief discussion of the FOSS paper and its analysis of current trends and forces impacting our industry has provided you with some useful strategic context for how the ISSA board and operating committee have shaped ISSA's agenda for the next few years.
Hi everybody, this is Phil Brown from Clearstream. Very happy to talk today about some of the things we discussed on the ISSA board panel at Post Trade 360 back in Stockholm at the beginning of September. I'm going to focus on AI. It was a big topic of conversation for us, and certainly I think that it was definitely worthwhile having that conversation because from the discussions we had and comments from the audience, it's evident that AI certainly started to generate some dynamic action and already seeing implementation in the security services space. Some of the key takeaways from what we discussed Well, it's not even yet actually 3 years since ChatGPT was launched. And in that time, we've seen NVIDIA, which is the chip behind ChatGPT and other AI applications, reach a market cap which is almost double the whole FTSE 100. So that tells you what the market thinks about this technology. We think that if it's used well, we can really drive some productivity and efficiency and operational gains. We can improve the customer experience and support product innovation. And we talked about some of the tangible use cases which we see already in areas like IT development, client onboarding, reconciliations, the issuance workflow, how we distribute products, how we manage risk in our client portfolios, how we manage risk in our own businesses, the management of the trade lifecycle for all asset classes, some of the complexity around asset servicing, especially in corporate actions and income processing. So a whole load of potential applications of this. So interested to hear from everybody what your firms are doing now and what the future plans are, whether you're having any successes with it. And I think that at an industry level, it's definitely gaining traction. Citi recently released a report that said that 86% of firms are running generative AI pilots and 53% are actively using the technology. For me personally, I'd say that I'm more excited about this technology than any other technology that I've seen during my career. I think it's really transformational, and we've barely begun to scratch the surface of what it can do for us. At our organization, we're trialing AI in a number of areas around customer experience and query management. We're using it to help us with our risk management and looking at ways that we can find operational efficiencies with it. And then importantly, we're starting to think about how we can use it in ways that can help us develop our technology more efficiently and more quickly. We're also starting to use AI now to respond to client queries in an automated way on things like simple queries like updates on trade settlement status. We think at the board level of ISA, and we think at the board level of Clearstream, it's only a small matter of time before we'll be able to respond to simple client queries using natural language processing and AI and the large language models that are baked into it to respond to those customer queries in real time. We're really excited also about the removal of some of the fat finger incidents that we experience in our post-trade industry. So things like where we get corporate action or trade instructions wrong, we can avert those risks through AI guardrails. And through automating repeated tasks and augmenting code quality, we can accelerate the speed at which we roll out new technology and software and therefore create efficiencies in our services and deliver better quality to our clients. So that's the summary of our discussion in Stockholm. Hope you all have some interesting questions for us, and hope to see you all soon.
On our panel at Post-Trade 360, the board discussed the risk issues impacting security services. In my view, there is no shortage of risks facing the post-trade space. And as Bill mentioned earlier, many of these are not new and have been explored by ISA in the past. Today, however, the risks, still as great, seem slightly different, whether arising from complex geopolitics, US political uncertainty, the threat of trade tariffs, or sticky inflation. During our discussion, and outside of the geopolitical and financial risks, our ISA board members highlighted that cybercrime is perhaps one of the biggest systemic risks we are facing. It is quite recent that cybercrime has featured so significantly in the industry's narrative, and it is a risk which is keeping us up at night. It's commonly noted that it's not a question of if, but actually when, our industry is confronted with a material failure. According to reports, we understand cybercrime costs the global economy between 1.2 and 1.5 trillion US dollars each year, although other commentators reckon it might be as high as 10 trillion US dollars annually. Of all of the sectors, financial services and banking is one of the most frequently targeted by cyber criminals. In fact, 65% of financial institutions were victims of ransomware attacks in 2024, and that's a sharp increase on 2021, when that figure stood at 34%. In security services, a successful cyber attack, for example, misappropriation of cash, securities, or proprietary client data, or a sustained outage in an FMI, be that a CSD or a CCP or any other critical infrastructure, would almost certainly spark contagion elsewhere.
On the panel, we also discussed cyber risk in the context of AI and Gen AI. We asked ourselves whether, while considering all the benefits, is AI also risks? The turbulent geopolitics of late have also elevated the cyber risk threat levels, as has AI. And despite its strategic benefits, the rise of AI has empowered cyber criminals by enabling them to draft increasingly articulate phishing emails, carry out highly targeted and sophisticated social engineering attacks, and create convincing deepfake audio videos of executive actually contributing to losses at financial institutions and in other sectors. I believe cyber is something ESA will be focusing on in its upcoming working groups.
Thank you, Margaret and Ankush. Next, we discuss with the board the notion of firms becoming efficiently ineffective due to fragmentation and developing at pace, but in silos. From this context, James and Margaret consider collaboration across the industry and its importance.
Our industry is facing a lot of challenges, but plenty of opportunities too. One thing, though, that ISA board members speaking at Post-Trade 360 were unequivocal about was that collaboration is essential for securities services to thrive going forward. For more than 70 years, our industry has undergone greater integration and globalization. We warned that today that is facing risks from fragmentation and economic nationalism. Historically, ISA has played a vital role in developing industry standards and harmonization. As we move into this different world, ISA can also play a very important role in helping to develop protocols and standards for dealing with destabilizing or extreme events. This is critical to helping the industry serve its purpose of protecting client assets in this more complex world. Another area where collaboration is essential is on technology. If we take the example of digital assets, in order to drive the efficiencies and scalability from those, the industry needs to work together and collaborate.
I agree. The key is collaboration. Just as in today's analog market, where every transaction will have a cash leg to it, the same is true for digital assets. Unlike fiat money, digital cash is not a single phenomenon. Digital currencies are diverse in nature, comprising cryptocurrencies, central bank digital currencies, virtual currencies, and stablecoins, each of which behave differently, and each of which can be treated differently by national regulators. You also need to think about how the digital cash types will interoperate with each other and with fiat money, along with both non-digital and digital assets alike. And these are new complexities our industry hasn't dealt with before. Unless there is greater standardization across the digital asset ecosystem, the market will struggle to gain traction. And this is an issue which ISA is actively looking to address. ISA has been at the forefront of identifying challenges and opportunities in the digital asset space, along with some of the practical aspects we should all be thinking about. With the Digital Working Group, this is to continue in a robust and concrete way, adding value to our industry.
So that is a wrap. But some final words as a recap. The security services industry is bracing itself for a lot of changes, some good, others less so, and associations like ESA play an invaluable role in helping our membership understand and ultimately respond to these challenges and opportunities. I hope you found the first of our ESA Snapshot series enjoyable and that it has provided some food for thought as to the issues, challenges, and opportunities going forward. You will receive an invite and details for our next ESA Snapshot soon. But in the interim, thanks for joining.